you've been hearing some grinding, pulling to one side when you brake, or you've got to push that pedal a little harder than usual, it might be time to take a look at those calipers. I'm Tyson, and here on the channel, I'll show you how to install some SKP calipers on a 03 Hummer H2. Hey everyone, welcome back to Driven by Quality. I'm Tyson, and today we are going to be talking about SKP calipers. Now, if you've been hearing grinding, had a hard pedal, or have had odd wear on your brake components, it might be time to inspect your brake calipers. SKP calipers are manufactured for perfect fit and reliable performance. They are made to ISO standards with zinc coating to prevent corrosion, to meet or exceed OEM specifications. With each new caliper you purchase from SKP, the caliper will come with all needed hardware and accessories to install the caliper right the first time. So to perform this repair today, you will need a screwdriver set, a set of 3/8 inch sockets, a ratchet that is in 3/8, a 1/2 inch breaker bar or 1/2 inch ratchet long enough to remove the wheels, a torque wrench, the sockets for the lug nuts and caliper brackets, a extension, a set of open or close-in wrenches, a screwdriver, hose pinch-off pliers, and a air impact wrench or a electric impact wrench will make your life easier getting the wheels off if you have access to them. You will also need brake fluid, brake lubricant, brake solvent such as brake clean and cleaner, and I advise wearing gloves. So you are going to first raise and secure your vehicle in jack and jack stands, and then remove your wheel. First, we're going to remove the lug nuts. In this case, we have to access them behind a hubcap. So we need to remove the hubcap first on this particular vehicle. Now, with the weight of the vehicle still on the wheel, we're going to break our lug nuts loose. That will keep the wheel from spinning. Now that the lug nuts are broken loose, we will raise the vehicle and secure it on jack stands. Once the wheel is completely off the ground, we can go ahead and remove the lug nuts completely. A good tip would be to use the socket to twist off the lug nuts. This vehicle uses a 22 or 7/8 socket. 1/2 inch drive would be preferred drive for the increased torque of removing the lug nuts. You can also use a tire iron or a quad wrench, sold commonly at auto parts stores. Now, once all the lug nuts are removed off the wheel, we will slide the wheel off the hub. Typically, when you're doing a caliper, you're also doing a brake job as well. Today, we will be replacing the brake pads on this, but not doing the rotors. The rotors are still in good condition on this vehicle. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to remove the actual caliper. The caliper is held on typically by 2 bolts, the slide pins. So first thing we're going to do is we're actually going to compress the caliper a little bit to give us room to slide it off. Most calipers have a witness hole right here, and you can put this flathead screwdriver in here and pull towards you or pull in the direction against the pistons. And as you can see, we have a little bit of slack in the caliper and the pads now. We will compress the pistons with the screwdriver, and we will see slack in the caliper now. So we can actually push the caliper back and forth and move it. Next, we will open up the hydraulic system. A good tip would be to compress the brake line to limit the amount of fluid loss. We're doing that with these hose pinch-off pliers right here. You can also use vice grips. On this particular vehicle, we have rubber hose lines, so we can actually use hose pinch-off pliers, and that will limit the amount of brake fluid loss during this procedure. Next thing you will want to do is have a catch pan to catch any residual fluid that's going to come out of the caliper and out of the hose. So we have that underneath our brake caliper right now. Next, we are going to get the proper size wrench to get the banjo bolt removed off the caliper. In this case, it is an 11. We want to be careful with the brake fluid because brake fluid will remove paint. So you want to make sure if you get it on any surfaces, especially on your car's exterior paint, then you get it off quickly. Once we remove the brake hose, we can go ahead and remove the banjo bolt, since SKP calipers come with all new bolts and copper washers. Now we can set that brake hose out of the way. Next, we're going to remove the caliper pin bolts on this particular vehicle. They are 18 millimeter. Once we have the two bolts completely loosened, we can go ahead and remove them and the caliper. And be sure to be careful with it because it still has fluid in it. And we can go ahead and drain that fluid into our catch pan. And since there's no core needed, we can actually just go ahead and set that in there. A good tip to do when doing a brake job is to use one of the lug nuts to secure the rotor onto the hub. That will keep the rotor flat against the hub so you're not fighting it trying to put the brake caliper on. So next we're going to remove the pads, which we can just slide those out. And since we are replacing them on this vehicle, we're going to dispose of the pads. Brake pads tell a lot of how your brake system is doing. On this particular pad, we can see little micro cracks in it, and that can be due to excessive heat by a sticking caliper. Another thing to look at is the thickness difference in the pads. The inboard and outboard pads are wearing differently on this vehicle. This can indicate a sticking caliper or sticking caliper slide pin, which a new caliper from SKP will correct. Next, we're going to remove the caliper bracket. On this vehicle, it uses a 21 millimeter socket. Caliper bracket bolts can be pretty tight, so a longer ratchet will make it easier. Next, we're going to install the caliper onto the spindle. We reuse the original caliper bracket bolts on this. There are two ways of doing this. You can put the pads in the caliper before you install the caliper, but in this case, we're going to put the caliper on the truck first and then remove the caliper off the bracket and install the pads in the bracket. Be sure to verify you have the right caliper on the right side of the vehicle. You can do this by looking at the bleeder screw on the caliper. The bleeder screw should always be at the highest point of the caliper to ensure proper bleeding. Next, we're going to tighten the caliper bracket bolts to the manufacturer's specification, which on this vehicle is 221 foot-pounds of torque. So next we are going to remove the caliper off the bracket by removing the same bolts that we did prior. Now we're going to remove the caliper and the pins and set it to the side while we install the brake pads. When installing the brake pads, typically brake pads have squealers on them in opposite directions. Pay attention to when you remove your brake pads off your vehicle and the orientation of the squealer, which one is the inboard and outboard pad. We're going to install the provided hardware on the brake caliper bracket. Making sure that the slides fit completely on the caliper bracket. Next, we're going to install grease onto the brake pads at the contact points. This ensures even wear and limits the amount of noise made. Now we're going to reinstall the brake caliper. Next, we're going to tighten the caliper bolts to spec, which on this vehicle is 80 foot-pounds. Now we are reattaching the brake hose to the caliper, and since we are reusing the original brake hose, it'd be wise to clean the brake hose mating surfaces using a solvent such as brake clean and a clean rag. This will ensure a good, clean connection. Now we're going to remove the plug out of the caliper. We're going to get the new banjo bolt supplied with the SKP caliper. So first we will put a copper washer on the new banjo bolt supplied with the SKP caliper. Then we will slide the banjo bolt through the brake hose and put the other copper washer on the back side of the brake hose. Now we will install the brake hose to the caliper. Be sure to start this by hand. Once the banjo bolt is fully seated against the brake caliper, we will tighten this to spec as well. We will now tighten the banjo bolt. Now we will release the hose pliers. Before we open the bleeder screw on the caliper, we do want to check and make sure that the brake fluid is full and we can actually top it off. Most vehicles on the brake reservoir cap, it will actually specify what DOT level brake fluid is needed. In this case, we are using DOT3. You do not want to overfill the reservoir, but these calipers will use quite a bit of fluid. We will go ahead and crack the bleeder screw open. This will allow the brake fluid to enter the caliper and push the air out. This can take a minute. So once the brake fluid starts coming out, you might see a few bubbles come out of the fluid. That is bleeding all the air out of the caliper. Typically this is good enough when bleeding the calipers. Sometimes you may have to have another person help bleed the brakes by depressing the brake pedal. Now we will tighten up the brake bleeder screw and reinstall the dust cap. So now we will clean off the brake hose and check it for leaks. Now we are going to build pressure in the brake system. We will press the brake pedal until the pedal gets hard and we can feel it start stiffening up. This is filling the caliper with brake fluid. And as you can see, the brake hose is nice and dry. There's no leaks coming from the bleeder screw or the brake hose. So we should be good to go. Now we will reinstall the wheel. We'll make sure the wheel is completely up against the hub and run the lug nuts down by hand. Once we have them snug, we will let the vehicle down off the jack stands and jack and torque the lug nuts to spec. And we do them in a crisscross pattern or a star pattern. And now we will reinstall the hubcap on this vehicle.